These AMA sessions are based on questions that we receive, and we hear them from different areas. Sometimes people email us. Sometimes people put the questions to us via chat, say on LinkedIn. They come from all different places, but it's actually a real pleasure to be able to have some time and space to say, here's what the questions are, and this is what we think the answers are. But I don't think we hold a monopoly on the correct answer. So the one thing that you and I both love and share is that we love to find a way to improve our own knowledge. So consider this, what you're hearing and what you're seeing, as, I guess, our best answer right now. And if you'd like to contribute to it, evolve it, we're all ears. We always are. So you can either reach out to me directly via the ways you're hearing and seeing this podcast, or you can reach out to Mel, and you can find her at melissajrosenthal.com. So reach out to us. We'd love to hear more about what you've got to say.
Oh, we would.
Yeah. So how about we dive into the first question of the day?
Let's do that. So the first one, it's kind of a doozy, right? Because it's right at the beginning of how you might think about partnerships. And that is, what if I don't know what the objective of a partnership should be? Like, I think the idea of partnerships is a good one. I'm thinking that it could help my team, my company, but I don't know how to frame it up. So Phil, what's your best advice for someone who says, I don't know what the objective should be?
You know what's interesting? Partnerships are a really romantic notion. And I think people sort of tend to forget that when we think about partnerships, we use it so ubiquitously through life, right? We think about our life partners, we think about our partnerships with friends, and even in business. And the question really comes down, you can boil it down to some really basic elements here. In a commercial context, in a business context, or even in a not-for-profit sort of base, let's think about what it is that we have to do to stay around, to be sustainable. And there are usually two questions that you can ask to try and get a stronger sense about why you'd go into partnership. Number one, the first question is, how do we attract more insert customers, donors, income? Like whatever that is that we do, how do we do that? And the second question is, how do we hold on to them? And so when you think about the opportunity for partnerships, I really love seeing organizations go, all right, here's all the things we have to do to create value and to be around long enough. And you can partner at any point in that value chain. But if you're trying to work out how would I go and propose to a brand I love or a brand I really respect, how can I help in the first instance? Or if somebody says, look, we can't do this all ourselves, who do we partner with? And you're trying to work out how do I sort of put that out into the universe and say, well, we need partners. Allow people to start at your doorstep. And that doorstep is, how can a partner help you attract and secure more customers so you can be around long enough? And second of all, how can they help you hold on to them? Because you might not have a great muscle for retaining people, right? You might, or customers, you might just be really good at the acquisition, might be really transactional, but you actually would like to hold on to them. How do we go about doing that? So that's what I would think about that.
So I think that's really interesting, that idea of kind of let them come to your door. At the same time, I want to be ready when they come. So how do I make sure, I'm prepared, and that I've kind of got my story straight around what I can do for them, so that it is truly a sense of partnership. It's not, I need something from you, full stop.
Yes. And it's interesting. I think we talked about this at the very beginning of this idea of Partnership Plus. It was the idea of, how do you signal to somebody that you're open to partnership in the first place? Right? So the idea of going to someone's website and seeing all the things you'd normally see, about us and, what we sell and features and products and everything else. If you see a tab or a link that says how we partner, and it allows you to communicate not every way you want to partner, but certainly maybe 80% of how you would like to partner, that allows the person who's coming towards you to go, actually, I think I can frame a pitch and ask a request in a way that's going to make sense to you. But many companies surprisingly don't do that. And when they don't, to your point, you want to have a level of confidence that says, well, I'm going to pitch something here to you. But as I wrote about last week, this is about your value proposition, whatever you go in with in the first instance, whether you're on the receiving end or the giving end. think about this as a low conviction starting point. So this is what I think I can propose, because I'll never have all the context you have. So I'm going to say, look, I'm going to be authentic. I would love to partner with your organization for these reasons. I love your mission. I've seen your track record. I love the people you attract and retain. There's just a vibe about what you do, which I'm really, really excited about. Great. That's good. So how can you help us? Well, I think I can help you like this. But I'm not sure that that's the whole story. Can we maybe have a talk about how I might be able to do what I do better for you? And don't be afraid of that conversation, because it's an exchange. There is no website on this planet that does a great job of articulating all the things that someone wants of them, right? And we spend so much time trying to express the messages. But if you open yourself to the point that, I'd love to partner with you and you're open to partnership, then all that needs to happen then is a set of conversations. And all you have to do beyond your original pitch is to listen really, really well and just try and work out if there is an access point for partnership. And look, there might not be. You might actually, after listening, go, look, this conversation's been great, but I actually don't think I can help you. I'm sad that I can't, but I don't want to waste your time. So I'm going to say, hey, listen, maybe in the future there's something there, but right now I'm not sure that's there. And you know what, Mel, this is such an uncommon position for people to take, that more often than not, the person that hears look, I just don't think I can help you, they go, actually, let me have a think about that. And they come back and it's like,
with a different idea.
With a different idea, right? And it's because it's an uncommon, authentic position to take.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you do that? So I think it's just be really human, and don't hold on to your value proposition. Don't white knuckle it. Like, don't go in there just going,
tight. Yeah.
This has got to be the pitch. They're going to love the pitch. Just look, consider your pitch a handshake, and then go from there.
It's a starting idea, right? An opening point. I wanted to just pick up on what you said about how we partner on a website, that expression, because I feel like maybe for people who work in partnerships day in, day out, they have enough experience kind of in their back pocket to go, I have a sense of how we partner. I can describe that. I know what the elements are to describe it. That feels comfortable. But if you're new to partnerships, or if you're trying to rethink the way you come at partnerships, how would you recommend someone start to think about describing how we partner? What's in the description?
Yeah, so there's two aspects to this, right? Let's play two scenarios. Scenario number one is you've got somebody who is very experienced in partnerships. They've been at an organization for a long time. They're like the Bible of partnerships for that organization. They know it all, right? And they're probably quite good at it. Then you have someone that comes in who's quite new and they're trying to learn all about that. Most partnership-related leaders or partnership-driven leaders will be known for that, and they'll be pitched constantly. And there'll be some good and there'll be a lot of not great. So the way for somebody who is the partnerships person to get time back in their life is to work with that more junior person to express how we partner so that they can reduce the amount of inbound, not helpful approaches that go on. So that's a good net catching situation. But the second scenario is with the new person. Like, how do I express that? And well, let's go back to the top of this question. Start by talking to your team, your leaders. If you're a more junior person, not a senior leader in this context, what are the two major things we need to do to be sustainable here? And let's just put the signal out there to say, for example, we're looking to acquire or serve customers in this industry, this vertical, this geography through this means. If you can help us with that, feel free to reach out. Here's what we're looking for. Include a form so you can get a bit of a sense, not just some random email traffic that will come through. And the second one is, so we're always on the lookout to find ways to retain customers and retain donors and to retain people on a journey. We have an aspiration to hold on to people and be with us on a 10-year journey. If you can help us with that, then reach out. And that's a pretty audacious kind of position for them to take. But you might find there is an organization, a person, a group somewhere that would never have ever thought to reach out, but has read that and gone, actually, we might have a point of view on that. And all of a sudden, if that turns out to play true, the partnerships person has just brought a huge amount of credibility back into their organization, and it was for very little investment. Now, of course, you could also get crickets, right? There might be nothing that you get back as a consequence. But if it's out there, then at least people know that it's out there, and
Mm-hmm.
you can change it anytime you like as you get more experience. But I
Yeah.
think it's a massive lost opportunity if you don't have just a signal that tells how people partner. One final thing to mention to that is you might also say, we're not accepting partnerships right now, right? Which also then saves anyone trying to get to you. They sort of have an update that right now is not the case. It might be in September, might be next year, whatever. But it's a great way to signal whether you're open to it or not.
Yeah, right. Um, Slight change in tack.
Mhm.
One of the things that I think has become really interesting as we delve into various elements of partnerships is you start to notice partnerships forming between different organisations. You know, scanning media, things start to come across your field of vision, and you go, oh, that's a partnership I never would have thought about, never would have
Yeah.
considered. How interesting. And
Mhm.
one of the ones that I know you and I have both seen lately is one between John Deere and SpaceX.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
And I'm wondering what you think is really interesting about that, and why that one caught your attention, because you shared it with me, and I was like, you know, tell everybody
Yeah.
why that one in particular was so interesting to you.
Oh, look, on so many levels. So, um, COVID taught us a lot about how we rely on other countries for different things. One of the things that Australia is very rich in is agriculture and land and food production. Many countries are not. And when you think about how far agriculture has sort of evolved over time, there's still a lot of families that have farms in their families. It goes on for a long time. Investment in technology can be fast in some cases, can be not in others. But we saw so much evolve with the Internet of Things and technologies going into farms to help things with like pest management or water flows or the way that different crops can be planted. And that's all awesome if you have internet connectivity,
Mm,
right? But where you don't, right, where there's not, 4 and 5G, telco posts sitting in the middle of nowhere, which in the region or part of our country, which is vast, like it is in the United States and just about everywhere around the world, there just isn't this kind of connectivity. So even though these companies want to do a great job to improve yields and improve all the things, be more environmentally sensitive, if you don't have the connectivity, it just doesn't work. And so you sort of go, well, who is going to deliver that connectivity? Will it be the telecommunications companies? Will it be government? They're not known for being fast movers, either of them. And then out comes of the woodwork over the last sort of decade, this new ability to provide connectivity through satellite direct connectivity. And that's where, SpaceX and Starlink came into play. And the team at John Deere, who is arguably one of the world's largest providers of agricultural equipment and high precision agriculture technologies, said, well, if you can help us with this connectivity piece, then it unlocks not just the ability for farmers to do things differently, but there is a massive ecosystem of other supporting players that can then actually do better work. And this was inked in January of 2024, so it's only a number of months old. You can assume it's been in the works for a long time before it got signed.
mm,
Um, but man, what a step change! So I guess it was a non-traditional industry partner that said, "Hey, listen, what if we did this?" And it's not yet clear to me who reached out to who first, right? Because
mm,
SpaceX is busy doing all the stuff in space that they're doing and launching and everything else. But you can imagine people going, what if, and this is what I love about it, what if we could just have direct satellite connectivity, which 20 or 30 years ago was never going to be a thing. It really wasn't going to be a thing for someone to bolt on a receiver onto a tractor and then have an Internet of Things connecting and moving together, right? So I guess the thing that really excited me about this was that it was yet another example of unconventional companies going, maybe we can help you with something that ordinarily would just be that's not going to be a thing. SpaceX is known for moving quickly and for being able to establish things. We've seen this in the Ukraine conflict where they've sort of created connectivity for troops on the ground. But when you sort of apply to something like agriculture, it's like this is where this gets super interesting.
mm.
And it's not the first time we've tried to play with this kind of idea, right? Google had their moonshot project with Loon, I think it was called, which was having these hot air balloons giving connectivity to different rural parts of Africa. Didn't work out so well, but it taught a lot of things. I'm sure there's a piggyback effect that's gone on here. So I guess the message here, and you can tell I'm geeking out on it, is that there's the opportunity for people to look at other industries and go, have you got something that could help us, and how would we help you in return? And this is yet to play out, but I think if we look back, we'll look back in 10 or 15 years and go, this is pretty cool.
Yeah, nice. Okay, another sort of tangent, I guess, in terms of questions, but one of the questions that we received was about, I guess, some of the more operational elements of partnership. So
Okay.
in particular, technical support. So depending on the nature of your partnership, it may require varying degrees of integration between you and your partnering organisation. And so the question that we've received is, how can you ensure that you get quality technical support from a partner?
Yes, and you're right. There's all these different technical support styles, right? So in software, there might be specialist integration engineers. In healthcare, there might be specialists, nurses and doctors that actually know a field so deeply that they're the ones you want to get to know, because they know all the ins and outs, all the kinks. They know this stuff. So regardless of what area you're in, you could also be in, say, construction, where that you're looking for a materials expert that knows things about whatever you're going to try and build. The point here is you want to very quickly, through the partnership development process, so as you're moving through the steps we talk about, establishing shared language, working out how we have the ability to have the right principles and build into the partnership agreement, so on. As part of that process, you want to be asking actively the questions, who are the specialists that we should be engaging with so that we can learn as much about the problem we're solving as possible, and can they be part of the team? And for the most part, what happens like 90% of the time is that question gets asked after the deal is inked. And that has a twofold impact. Number one, these specialists all of a sudden are pulled in with no context to sort of go, hey, listen, can you help with this? And they're going, I guess, I don't know, maybe. And the second thing is they're often asked questions without the ability to know how the whole puzzle fits together. So all of a sudden, it's all very sudden, I guess, is the point. So my very strong suggestion is to look for the people that are often asked to come in last and bring them in first. And it doesn't matter what specialty they are, bring them in so that they can go, because actually I should say, Mel, this I found this 3 times in the last 2 weeks. Once they have been engaged, they often will say something like, oh, we tried this like 2 years ago, 5 years ago, and it didn't work. And it was like, oh, eureka. Why? Let's go and get a coffee. Let's go and have lunch. Let's workshop it, get a whiteboard, whatever you need to do, and tell me why that's the case. Because usually that is lost in history, because they're technically often not sidelined, but put in a different part of the organization, don't get to see all the plays being made. So
Save you a ton of time if you front foot that, right?
So much time. So when it comes to quality technical support, often they live in plain sight in a partner organization, but you have to request for them to be brought forward so that you can be engaged with them. And, from everyone in the partnership team on your opposite side, really overinvest in that relationship. Like, get to know what makes them tick, make sure they're included in conversations, ask their points of view, value that point of view, debate it with them, show them that all the technical expertise they've been keeping the organizations running with actually is valued. And it usually has a pretty magical kind of outcome. But just know that usually they're not included in the early conversations of a partnership formation. That's often a mistake. So it's really up to you going in to do the partnerships, pull them forward as best you can.
Yeah, nice. We've spent quite a bit of time today talking about the setup phase, I suppose, or the finding phase and the setup phase in partnership.
Yep.
And I wanted to jump downstream a bit, actually, with a question around, when you're in a partnership and the signs that you're getting, the signals that are coming back to you are that things aren't optimal. It doesn't necessarily have to be that they're a disaster, but you're seeing things and hearing things and experiencing things where you're going, this isn't what I hoped it would be. How do you decide? Like, what are the criteria? What's a way of thinking about whether this is a pivot opportunity or whether
Mm.
this is a quit?
Oh man, this is a wide and deep question, and I think there are two things that I'll sort of open with. The first one is whenever the first thing I'm always looking for is a lack of continuity in communication. So if things start to go quiet for chunks of time where ordinarily they wouldn't, or if there's just been silence for a long period of time, there are obvious signals that something is not working quite well. And the step thereafter that is not to jump to this partnership is tanking. It's
Mm,
it is the signal to go, I need to get closer and I need to understand more, because it could be as simple as um, somebody on your team has made a request and they're beavering away at it. It's taken longer than they thought to get it done. They just haven't come back to you yet. And it's once you get to the bottom, it's like, hey, no, it's fine. But guys, if you could just let us know that you're
mm,
working on it, that'd be really helpful. We're kind of freaking out over here. Um, the other piece, though, is you want to make absolutely certain that you're triangulating why you would make the decision to suggest that maybe we should bring an end to this partnership. And it has to be data driven, right? If you act on instinct and response in this kind of circumstance, it's not going to often play out well. And it's because you'll be framing how you're looking at what you're seeing, and that point of view, given how much you've slept, how stressed you are, how you see other things working, it'll influence that really substantially. So when it comes to how we can think about that, I recommend sort of these three things. First one is always go and speak to at least 4 people in the partner organization to understand the current state of the partnership. That will often be your opposite number, the person you're paired with, and some of the other team members, even technical support person, just to get a sense about what is happening inside that organization. You might find that the company has just all of a sudden been subject to an acquisition, or they're about to sell something, or there's something big
mm.
coming down the pipe. They just happen to forget to tell you. And then you can start to make some decisions around that. So that's step number one, triangulate the data set. Number two, you want to look back on the behaviors that you've seen to date in that partnership. Has there been a traditional sort of cyclical nature to engagement because their business, for whatever reason, has cyclical natures to it? If that's the case, it could be normal and you could just be caught in the downward sort of spiral of that. So just hold fire for a minute. And the third thing I would say is if you have conviction around ending that partnership, go back to the agreement, look for what the agreement says would happen in those circumstances. If it is not clear what happens in that circumstance, build out a process map about how you can communicate clearly with those other partners to come to that agreement, work out what's next, and
Mm.
follow every single step to the letter so that people who are involved in the partnership end up closing it with the right level of dignity, with a really clear and clean process. And the reason that's super important is because one, there could be legality tied up in it and there could be consequence. But often, if it ends well, the chance of you working with them in a different context in the future increases quite substantially. So it's really about, triangulate, understand the history, and if you do need to change, find a way to make it smooth and clean, even though it'll be uncomfortable.
Yeah, there's something really nice about that kind of clean ending that actually isn't an ending because it opens new beginnings, right? That's the
Yep.
essence of partnership. It's saying it's not a transaction, it's not a project,
Yep.
it's something enduring, and the way we treat each other and the way we work together throughout all of that exemplifies the philosophy around how we want it to endure.
Exactly. And look, partnerships like businesses, like arrangements come to an end every day. Like
Mm,
this is not new. It's not unique to you. It happens all the time. It's actually part of the journey, like you said. So if it's going to happen, just make sure it's happening for the right reasons and make sure you know why you've made that call. There's nothing worse than having to try and retract a position of this has got to come to an end, only to find out that actually it didn't. You just got
mm,
it wrong.
yeah.
Doesn't work great. So just be really careful about that.
I reckon that's all we've got time for.
Perfect. All right. So if you have a question about partnerships, if you heard Mel and I talking about what's going on here, we do this every month and we accumulate the questions. So if you have a question, reach out to me on my website or Mel on her website. We'll put those in the show notes so you can find them. Reach out to us on LinkedIn, pose the question, and then we'll point you to the right episode once that question's been answered so that you can hopefully have an answer and start a conversation with us if you think we've got it wrong or if it's been helpful. We'd love to know. So, hey, thanks, Mel. I'll see you in the next episode.
Thank you. See you soon.